This young, beautiful, and obviously stunning lady was murdered by a hitman, and right now all fingers are pointing to her longtime boyfriend and his present wife. This is the story of Namhla Mtwa, and I tell you, it is one of the craziest and most painful cases of domestic violence that led to death. Namhla Singwa, popularly known as Hele, is a 34-year-old South African working class lady whose story at the moment is now one to be used to teach many people out there when, how, and the best possible ways to leave a toxic relationship before it gets you to your end. Namhla was said to have dated an untouchable wealthy businessman who also has strong connections with powerful men in politics. His name is Major Bekozulu Mafesane. Namhla was known to be a very simple lady who was loved by all because she always sought for the happiness of other people. She was always seen to be laughing, even beyond all the pains that she was going through in life. She was hardworking as an assistant accountant at the Budget and Treasury Office at the OR Tambo District Municipality. But her only crime, just like every other lady or man who has experienced domestic violence to the point of death, was that she was in love. Her love story all began about 16 to 18 years ago when she fell in love with Major when he had almost nothing. He was still struggling, but she stood by him through thick and thin. She would be his shoulder when he needed to cry. She would be his number one fan even when the whole world was against him. She supported him in many ways possible to the point where he was sent out of his apartment and needed accommodation. She accommodated him. He probably would have, taken her shopping and even vacations, but all these were a means to pay back her kind deeds and also make sure to put a certain front of what their relationship was, while behind the scene she was enduring hell. Namhla endured so much for so long, which would lead to her being killed, being shot 9 times by a hitman. So for about 17 years, for the most part of 17 years, Namhla dated Major and endured several levels of domestic violence that are unspeakable as their relationship turned very sour. As Major's businesses grew bigger and he became rich and started having connections in political levels with powerful men and women, he became overly possessive of his girlfriend. He, began doing things that only obsessed people would really do. He will go as far as dictating where and how and when she leaves to wherever she wants to go to. She would have to seek for permission from him. It will get to even point of him caging her in the house. I mean, literally locking up. It was as though the devil sent this man into her life because he was caging her, not letting her date any other person, but he went on to get married. And for the most part of their relationship, he would beat her whenever he was agitated. Although I do not understand most of the translations, at a certain point in January 2022, after beating her up and then sending her out of his own house, I think she had to leave to her own place. He would later call her when she arrived at her own place and ordered her to change all her social media pictures, the cover pictures and profiles, to his own. Whilst all this was going on, she was like a puppet and a comedy story to him and his family, as he would post pictures of her and pictures of her in towel and all whatnot to his family group, and I think they laughed about it. At one point on January 5th, whatever altercation it might have been, this man tied up Namhla and flogged her for 8 hours. And whatever intervals it was, he flogged her with a belt and a snapjock. Those of you who don't know, this is a shambok. This is a cane that was used to flog slaves, used to flog animals, horses. He would tie a woman he claims to love and flog her It was rather a routine for him to beat her viciously, leaving her with crazy, unbelievable marks on her body, and then find ways to beg her to keep staying with him. But of course, she actually stayed because he had threatened her family, and all she was trying to do was find the best way to leave him, which she couldn't find. Unfortunately, Namhla lost her life within the first half of 2022, just 2 months after many people began calling her to find a way to leave the hellish relationship. Namhla was shot brutally in front of her home at the driveway in Mthatha on the 21st of April 2022. She was shot by a hitman who shot her 9 times while she was seated in her car, and this hitman was said to have been hired by her boyfriend and his wife. It was added that the alleged hitman was a tall, young, slender man who was allegedly paid the sum of 10,000 rand, that's around $630. The said hitman had monitored her routine for about 3 days or more, and then when she had arrived at the whatever time it was, he approached her vehicle and shot her while her aunt watched in dismay, crying and calling for help. Heartbreakingly, Namhla could not be saved as she died on the spot in the vehicle where she was shot 9 times. And it turns out this routine is not the first of her said boyfriend, as he had been caught in murder cases before. Yes, this act of wickedness is not something new to Major Bekuzulu Mafesane. He had been convicted for murder case in 2018. Major was allegedly charged for the murder of Mzolisi and the attempted murder of Dembela in August 11th, 2018. With the alleged contact he has with powerful people like the Premier Oscar Mabuyane of the African National Congress in South Africa, he is said to probably walk free in this particular case again, as he had allegedly paid the sum of 50,000 rand for the case of murder in 2018. That is around $3,160. However, I hope that just like Hillary Gardy's case, that Namhla would not be swept under the rug. Seek justice for Namhla.